Steep U.S. tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods came into force yesterday, with experts warning they could snarl supply chains and push up prices for consumers on both sides of the border. Joining us now with more reaction to the 25% tariffs on all Canadian goods and 10% on Canadian energy is Chuck Davidson from the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning, Rochelle.
Nice to see you. Now, your phone was just ringing off the hook yesterday. Yeah. Describe to me some of the concerns you were hearing.
Yeah, it's just that level of uncertainty. We now know that the tariffs are in place, and now the concern is what's the impact going to be in terms of what that looks like from a long-term perspective. We know, and we've talked about this on numerous occasions, that Manitoba businesses do 70% of their business with the United States. If you're going to throw a 25% tariff on that, it makes it difficult to continue to do business. Some are going to be able to, because you can't just turn off a relationship like that, but it makes things a whole lot more challenging. And I think that's some of the bigger concerns that businesses have. What's the long-term impact going to be on them, and how long is this going to be in effect for? I think that's one of the things that we're really focused on, is we got to get back to the table. That trade deal that in Kuzma that's supposed to be renegotiated in 2026, we need to start having those discussions today.
Now, some businesses have been obviously speaking with their counterparts in the U.S. You've been speaking with your counterparts. What are they saying back in the States? Yeah,
it's interesting, right? Because you're having conversations with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and there's been many discussions between governors and premiers, and they're all along the same lines. Neither side sees the benefits of tariffs, because they both recognize this is a lose-lose situation. It is not good for U.S. consumers. It is not good for U.S. businesses. It is not good for Canadian consumers, and it's not good for Canadian businesses. So what's the long-term impact of what we're trying to do here? It's going to result in increased costs on both sides of the border. It's going to increase inflation. So it's this huge challenge that we're kind of dealing with this trade war that doesn't need to happen. And I think that's the bigger picture in terms of what's the end game that the United States and President Trump are trying to play here. If anyone could try to figure that one out, that would really help to, I think, understand the situation a lot better.
Now, there's some stories coming out of the U.S. that even as today, there could be some kind of announcement coming from Donald Trump regarding this, maybe even news on some kind of trade deal. Yeah. We've heard that Justin Trudeau has a phone call with Trump today, this morning, in fact. What are you hoping will come from that?
Well, what we're hoping is that we can find a resolution to this as quickly as possible, because we know the impact this is going to have on the average worker, on businesses, and that uncertainty from a financial situation. We need to get back to how we used to always have that strong trading relationship between our two countries. It has worked well for decades. Let's get back to that so that we can start to continue to focus on things that are important to the average Manitoban. In the meantime, what we also need to focus on, I think, in the longer term, and I think this is a bit of a wake-up call for Canada, we need how can we sort of Trump-proof our economy. We don't need to kind of go through this uncertainty on a regular basis. So what do we need to do to focus on things that are important to Manitobans and Canadians? And this is where we talk about internal trade barriers. We talk about looking at other markets. We talk about, continuing to support local. These are things that can really Trump-proof your economy by focusing on things that we can control.
Now, the province announced tax deferrals for businesses in Manitoba yesterday for 3 months. Yeah. Is that going to help?
Well, it is a signal that there is support for them. And I had conversations with government yesterday, and my comments were, our hope is that you're not going to need this in 3 months, and this is a short-term measure. I think that's one of the things that business is looking for, what kind of supports are out there. I think there's more that would need to be done, specifically in terms of, we've talked about things like work share programs and how can you help out those businesses with the actual dollars. Simply deferring taxes to a later date helps, but there's going to be, if this is a lengthy tariff situation, a lengthy impact, there's going to need to be additional supports. Are going to need to help businesses to get through this.
There's been talk for more than a month now, supporting local, buying Canadian-made products. What's your message to Manitobans?
Yeah, continue to do that. I think that's important, and I think Canadians and Manitobans have really stepped up. They've flown the Manitoba flag, they've flown the Canadian flag, and they're supporting as much as they can. That helps businesses. It sends a strong signal that you understand the pressures that we're dealing with right now, and continue to do that.
And you're hearing from U.S. counterparts, they're worried about that too, right? That movement?
Oh, absolutely, because I think they, the more people that decide we're not going to do our holidays in the United States, that we're not going to travel, that we're not going to buy American products, that's problematic for them as well. So that's, I think, the kind of situation that they're not looking forward to.
And that's something that it's a good way to grab their attention as well.
Absolutely.
That we could all do.
Absolutely.
All right. Chuck, thanks again for your time today.